Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Adam Interviews, where we are talking with folks who are doing extraordinary work in our community. Now, our next guest, I might have introduced him as someone who had done extraordinary work in our community, as he had been the artistic director over at Chiva for more than a quarter of a century and had done incredible work there. As it turns out, I get to introduce Mark Cuddy now as someone who is currently doing extraordinary work once again in our community. You are back, but not at Chiva. It's the Classics Company, and we're going to get into more about what that is and what you're going to be able to see. But Mark, I just want to first start by saying it's so good to talk with you again.
Oh, Adam, it's always a joy, and you know your Jiva connection runs strong, so does mine. We're there together.
Absolutely. I met Mark, for those who don't know. Many moons ago in the 90s, they had a summer camp, and I was fortunate enough to be picked. I must have been last on the list there for the group. Turned out to be tremendous. In fact, we've had a few of those folks, at least one, go to the national stage.
Yep.
No pun intended.
No, for sure. It's a great training ground for so many things, including broadcasting. Here we go.
Absolutely. No, it's been a wonderful experience since then. So before we get into the Classics Company, you retired in 2022. How has life been for you over the last two and a half years?
Yeah. So it's been busy. Before I left Jiva as artistic director emeritus in July of 2022, after 27 years, which, you know, these things fly by, right?
Yeah.
I was asked to go to Cleveland, Ohio, and be an interim artistic director while they were doing a search for a new artistic director. That was going to be a 4-month or 5-month gig. We kept our home here. I drove the 4 hours back and forth a lot on the weekends to my spouse back here and my dog. But that 4 months turned into a year and a half over there, which interim gigs apparently do. I mean, I was such a naive person. Oh yeah, an interim thing, you know, that'll be fun. So when I got back in the holidays of 2023, end of December, I called it quits for sure and took 6 months off. I unplugged from everything, social media, everything. I just have to detox from a life of working hard in the theater.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you back. It's interesting because in order to do something for that long, and then even after a retirement of sorts like you had, to then go back for a year and a half, you have to truly love it. There has to be a passion there. And look, I loved theater, but not like that. There would be a time, even during a play, where I'd say, I want a break. And I never really looked back. When did you discover that passion? When you said, this is something that I can do for years on end and never truly tire of it?
You know, I was fortunate. The short answer is 14, when I was 14. But the longer answer is that I was in a all-male classics school in Boston, where I grew up, the Boston Latin School, oldest public school in America, founded in 1635. 4 years later, they founded Harvard so that the graduating class of Latin school would have some place to go to college. And for hundreds of years, the entire graduating class. That changed by the time I came around. But there was a teacher of Greek and Latin there who heard me read some proclamations at assemblies, because I was always, say, I'll do it, because the classics thing wasn't really for me. So I would volunteer for everything. And he heard me, he said, I think you have some talent. You should pursue this. And he gave me the phone number of the 2 people who ran the Boston Children's Theater, which was a very sort of high-intensive conservatory for after school. And I brought that home to my mother, wouldn't tell my father, and went to a class the next day, and it was an epiphany. It was like, it's my people. And a year later, I actually, very very forthright at 15. I went, okay, this is the rest of my life. I'm going to do this. I'm dropping everything. My father, who was an attorney, was like, no, you're going to, we have a place in the law firm for you and all that. And so that was a little bit of a struggle. But at 15, I committed myself. At 17, I was earning a paycheck.
Wow. That is remarkable. And how did you end up, I want to talk, he mentioned the classics, and that's really where we're about to go with this, but I just had a question before we get there.
Sure.
How did you end up in Rochester?
Right. So Christina Sellian, my spouse, and I had our second child out in Sacramento, California, where I was running the Sacramento Theater Company. And we decided, for family reasons, to move back east. I had been out west for about 16 years. I loved it. But we moved back, and so I was looking for jobs, and I applied to a bunch of things, and I applied to the GVA Theater, which I called it at that time. Well, it was a capital G and a capital V, as we recall, right? It was like, well, how would you pronounce that? I was quickly told it was called Jiva. And as we drove across country with our two kids, I became a semifinalist and then a finalist for the position. And we had never been to Rochester, so as a finalist, we came up. And actually, Jennifer Leonard and David K. Johnston were friends of a friend of mine, and they volunteered to show us around Rochester. And they did. And during our final interview, and Jennifer apologized as we were driving down Monroe Avenue, saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have time to stop at the Wegmans." And afterwards, Christina is saying to me, like, I don't want to go to a city where the grocery store is on the highlight list. Little did we know, that was actually not true at all. And Wegmans is a highlight.
Exactly, a first stop there.
Yeah.
And really, right out of the gate, you helped to transform and bring more of the community into the community theater, and we're also grateful for that. Often when I go to Jiva, it's to see a newer type play. Obviously, the Christmas Carol is a standard, a tradition, but most that I see there are from newer playwrights, and some are experimental, which I appreciate. Where you're going, I'm very interested because it's called the Classics Company, and you are going to focus. He's coming back. I mean, he's reinventing a new theater, really, company in our area, the Classics Company, and you're going to focus not just on classical plays, but also you're going to dedicate 1 year, one playwright. Is that correct?
That's right. The tastes of audiences changed over the years. When I arrived in 1995, there was still our big subscriber base was basically the greatest generation, right, who grew up respecting the great classics and the great playwrights, and they felt like they had to go see those plays, whether they were American classics or world classics. The taste changed as the boomer generation, my generation, took over in terms of attending the theater. That audience, the boomer audience, wanted things that related to them. And a little more contemporary, and really weren't interested in, art for art's sake or literature for literature's sake. So plays got more topical and more contemporary over time, just because of the taste of the audience. But we weren't able to do the classics for a couple of reasons there. One was they're generally larger casts, and so they're more expensive in terms of producing. Secondly, the audience wasn't clamoring for them, so it was hard to sell a lot of tickets to those plays. So I didn't get to do some of the work that I've grew up on. And when I retired, I said, well, if I'm going to come back and do anything, these are the plays I want to do right now. It's like when you retire, you get a chance to read all the great books that you didn't get a chance to read, didn't have time to read, or that sort of thing. So the idea of taking one playwright a year and doing a deep dive, immersing oneself and the actors and the audience members, so we really get to understand the historical and cultural context of that writer, was attractive to me, and I honestly don't think anyone else is doing that. So I don't think anyone in the country is actually doing that anymore. Even the Shaw Festival started, of course, doing just Shaw, but that's not what they do anymore. And Shakespeare festivals often have a musical or some other kind of play in there. So this is it's helpful to me.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. The first playwright that you're going to start with is Anton Chekhov, and the first play is going to be The Seagull, which starts on January 8th. So this is up and coming. It's going to be at the Muck on Atlantic Avenue. Tickets still available for the first for any of them. I
Absolutely.
think there's 11. Is
Yeah,
there
we do 11 performances.
11 tickets still available if folks
Yes,
want to?
yes, absolutely, absolutely. You can go to our website, theclassicscompany.org, or muccc.org, which is the venue.
Excellent. So I have to, I guess, be embarrassed here because I've heard the name like most Anton Chekhov, but
right.
and this is why I'm so glad you're doing this. I would need a deep dive. I know very little about him. I don't even know if I've seen any of his plays.
Yeah, it's true. One of our supporters said, "Oh, I get it, Mark." When I was explaining the mission a year ago, I started talking to people in the community saying, "Will this thing fly?" And one of our supporters said, "Well, yeah, you know what you're doing, Mark, is reintroducing people to these great writers and these great plays. They probably have heard the name. They might have heard of the play, but that would have been back in school sometime, and since they're not produced very much, so yeah, it's not surprising. Anton Chekhov wrote in Russia in the late 19th century. It was a real time of change in the theater world because there was Chekhov in Russia. There was Ibsen, there was Strindberg, there was Shaw, there was Oscar Wilde, a lot of playwrights with the beginning of what we call now the modern drama. When I was in college and I heard that modern drama, that's 1890s, right? 1890s modern. But when you consider that in the mid 19th century, all of the plays were these sort of morality plays and histrionic and melodramas and good versus evil and symbolism. And there was no real people, honestly, on stage. So that all changed with these playwrights. Chekhov was hugely influential. And if you talk to any of the modern playwrights or playwrights of the 20th century, they often will point to, oh yeah, Chekhov was beginning with its foundational work.
And is that partly because he brought more realism, more like reflection of a normal person onto the stage?
Yeah, and there are no good and evil people in his plays. They're just flawed people in his plays, and he celebrates kind of the human comedy of people's foibles and follies, and all of his major plays are family plays. They're both relations and extended family, like the family doctor who's there all the time, or these are set on estates out in the country. They're not set in Moscow, for example. So they have a lot of interesting characters. The characters are something I always was drawn to when I saw a Chekhov play. Super interesting, great relationships, eccentric some of them, and passionate. If you know any Russian people, they are very, very passionate, but there's a sort of a roller coaster of emotions in these plays. Chekhov called several of his plays comedies, including The Seagull, which we're starting with. But they're not comedies in the Borscht Belt kind of where it's not like a Neil Simon comedy.
Yeah.
They are, I would say they're not tragedies, even though there's some tragic events that do happen in the narratives of these plays. They are plays with, again, sort of ups and downs and lots of small comic elements in them.
You started casting, I believe, in April.
I did.
It's and here we are. It's a very intimate theater. In addition to that, this is going to be, I don't know. It seems like a huge passion project in a way.
Well, it's totally a passion project. It's my retirement job, right?
Yeah.
My retirement project. And we did. There were fabulous talent here in Rochester, and so all of the actors that I cast are from the Rochester area. I did auditions in April and May to cast all three plays, The Seagull, The Cherry Orchard, and Three Sisters, which happened in January, March, and May here in 2026. And I did all the casting at once. I wanted to get the best people, and I did that ahead of a lot of the other theaters that are locally cast because I wanted people an opportunity to come and participate.
Yeah.
Had a great turnout. Super excited about each of the three casts. There are about 33 actors I cast across the three plays. A handful are doing two plays. No one's doing all three. And so people are slotted in just in roles that are really perfect for them.
Which is remarkable that there was the pool for that, I suppose.
Yes.
Look, we're not New York City, so I think it's a testament to your reputation.
Well, it's multi-generational. These plays are multi-generational.
Yeah.
There are young lovers, there are old retired folk, there's the whole range because they're family plays.
Yeah.
So we're able to really, from all the strata and all the ages within the community, cast quite well.
Yeah. I find it interesting. I'm so glad you're doing this, and I hope to be able to get to one of these because I did take Russian literature in college, but it was novels. So it was Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, it was Dostoevsky's Brothers Karamazov. And what you're saying about Anton Chekhov, I think a lot of it is very similar. It's interesting the parallels between the plays and the literature.
Those are 19th century writers, and there's Chekhov was known as a short story writer. In fact, he's known as the greatest short story writer, and not only in Russia, but one of the greatest ever to live. So he wrote all these short stories, which were really, they were character descriptions. He dealt deeply into the idiosyncrasies of the people in his short stories. And so it was natural for him to go into playwriting after that because he had created all these fabulous characters. He was a great admirer of other Russian writers. Tolstoy was sort of his king, of Russian writers, and Turgenev. So it's all part of that Russian literature legacy.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you're running into, and you must have, even with plays written in the 50s, 60s, maybe even more so there, you always hear the thing, well, that didn't hold up very well. There are depictions of women, of minorities, especially in American literature, where you watch a movie today, even stuff in the 90s, and you're like, okay, well, that's interesting. Did you run into that at all with his work?
That's a great question. We are, I learned to that by starting with, we are setting all three of his plays in period. Right, so we're not trying to modernize. We have a terrific translator, and he wrote them in Russian, so we had to have a translator. And there are many translations out there, but I was able to find three fabulous translations of the three plays that are written, translated by a woman who's on the faculty at George Mason University and who has participated with us. And made little changes here and there for us, and really gave a lot of great insight. The thing about the Chekhov plays, why they don't age, is they're not topical. They are relational, and the sort of family units and the love and the passion and the greed, or it's all. These are universal, and those things, haven't changed. The sort of customs have, but not the people. The people are the same people.
Yeah, people are people.
Yeah.
Is there one scene in The Seagull that stands out to you that really touches you?
I will answer that by saying that there's a sort of rallying around the oldest character in The Seagull. He's just retired. He's very old. He's 60. And he's being played by David Shakes, who is a noted, celebrated Rochester actor. And it's great as sort of a centerpiece of the story. And people are always concerned about him and always taking care of him. And you see a little. The action takes place over 2 years and in the play, and so you see his physicality start to deteriorate, and people really trying to protect him and take care of him, and so I would say that's a kind of great keystone of the play. There are I can't pick out one scene, frankly, because I'm in the midst of making sure that they're all
I can only
great.
imagine. Yeah.
And it's like, they're all my sons. They're all,
I know. Everything has to be
Do
done.
you have a favorite? No, I don't, because I don't want to slight anyone.
Especially when you're in the midst of parenting,
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
So one thing I remember is when my good friend Ward Stair, who I grew up with, was the director over at RPO, he would have these sessions prior to the performance where it would be very casual and he would offer context. And for someone who has a very lay knowledge of classical music, it was hugely helpful and it enhanced the performance. You're going to be doing something similar, if I'm not mistaken.
So if I may toot my own horn for a moment, the RPO copied me at Jiva.
I like that. That's fine.
I actually started that in Sacramento in 1989, doing a pre-show talk. I called it Prologue, and we would do it before every performance of every play.
Wow.
And I brought that to Jiva to do it for every book, because every audience is special. It's not that, that third Thursday we're doing something. No, every time. So yes, we're doing it again for our performances of The Seagull. It's going to take place at Writers and Books, which is a block away, and has a parking lot where you can just park and attend this free pre-show talk. It takes place 1 hour before curtain time, and it lasts a half an hour. And I'll be giving most of those prologue talks, and it provides, it's some context, a way in. You have a cup of coffee and listen, and then you're ready for the play. And I always felt that it wasn't the audience's job to be read up on everything. It's up to us as artists to provide a doorway, a portal into the play and its period.
Especially when a particular genre has not been, or a particular time period has not been highlighted over the years. So that has to be stressful. I can't imagine what your mind's going to be like on January 8th, an hour before curtain.
I'm kind of relying upon the fact that I've already done all that homework, but I haven't actually prepared that talk yet.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I want to write an outline quickly because it's in there. I just have to organize it now.
It's going to be like, hi, my name's Mark Cuddy. Questions.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for coming.
What can we cover here?
Yeah.
How have the actors taken to this work?
We had a little donor event the other day, and the actors did a little Q&A with the attendees. And to a person, they were around the room and saying, "This is such a privilege to be able to do the work because no one else is doing Anton Chekhov, and to do the classics in period gives them a great challenge and a great way to stretch and a great way to take some of the training that they perhaps haven't been able to use since college or when they studied acting now to put it into these plays. So it's a great opportunity for them, and they're very appreciative. And it's challenged them. They have to be word perfect. They have to be. You can't slouch. It's not contemporary speak. It's very easy, direct language.
Right.
It's not stilted at all. But it's intentional. Everything's intentional in these plays.
Yeah.
There's no warming up. You come in and you're ready to go.
Yeah, no ad-libbing,
No,
so to speak. But
no,
really,
no.
I mean, what you are and what the actors are stewards of this.
That's right.
Of this
That's right.
type of language. So, I know you're artistic director emeritus over at GEVA. How's that relationship been, and especially with you starting a new company, what is that like?
Well, they're super supportive. I went over there a year ago and told Elizabeth and James that I was starting this company, and they were like, "Great, that sounds great, classic, fantastic. We'll come, we'll support." And I said, "Yeah, then I'll be out of your hair. I will be.
Yeah,
I'll have something to do. And frankly, that's part of it. When we made our life here, and we're not leaving here, I've never been in the same city after I've left a job. I've run 7 theaters, but I always will going to the next city, going to another city to do the next job, and here I am, still here, right? So. I've been trying to be as supportive as possible. My version of A Christmas Carol was done for a couple of years after I retired, which was great. Elizabeth now commissioned a different version, so I'm not doing that. So I'm just, I'm an audience member and a donor.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing to, again, I think I'm going to take inspiration from the fact that when you retired, you were able to take on something that you weren't able to in the day to day, the grind, if you will. And while I'm not wishing time away, I think I look forward to that myself. At the same time, it has to be extraordinarily difficult because of that passion, you might even be putting more of yourself into something.
I got to tell you, it's going back to the early days of doing it all. I mean, we're a very lean organization. I take no compensation. It's my passion project, and everyone who's working with us are, contractors and gig workers, and putting that all together. And I have my little home office, and I'm shoveling the sidewalks over at Muck, and I'm getting concessions, and it's back to the old days of but it's fun because it's something, it's a passion, it's something I want to do.
Yeah. And one thing I noted, so again, for those of you who maybe just walked into the room as your family member is watching this, Mark Cuddy is starting the Classics Company, and they are having their first performance on January 8th of The Seagull by Anton Chekhov. And I was in New York City about 2 weeks ago, and the costs to go to a play there are almost prohibitive for a lot of folks. Now, this is what, $30 a ticket, something like
Top
that.
price. Top price is $30.
That's for the main seat, right? That's
that
how
is.
accessible. How accessible.
Yeah. So this venue is, for those of you who haven't been there, its official name is the Multi-Use Community Cultural Center, and it was founded 15 years ago as a nonprofit to provide a performance space for any theater group, dance group, music group to be able to rent by the week. It's a huge resource for Rochesterians, and so part of their mantra is to try to make everything accessible, and $30 for a general admission ticket is actually their top price, But we did that, and we have a $15 ticket for anyone aged 25 or under. And we also, I'm starting this thing, I'm trying it out every Tuesday of our run, which for this is Tuesday, January the 13th. We're calling it $10 Tuesday.
Ooh.
And cash at the door, no advance sales. Show up with your sawbuck, and and come in. And so honestly, it's for $10 to see a world classic. I don't know where else you're going to do that.
Exactly. Where else? So, and where else can you get an in-depth interview with Mark Cuddy than on the Rochester First app, which you can download for free to your smart TV, and tell your family and friends. Mark Cuddy, always a pleasure talking with you. And I'm so glad that not just to reconnect, but to see you back in action.
Oh, thanks, Adam. Thanks. I'll go as long as I can.
Yeah, apparently, and I'm glad we snatched you back from Cleveland. They don't deserve it.
There you go. Oh my gosh, it's fabulous to be back here, not there.
Yeah, save yourself on that drive. So. Mark Cuddy, talking with us again, has just done extraordinary work. We've been so lucky to have him in our community. He has helped to enrich Rochester over the years, and now he's going to be doing so with the Classics, Anton Chekhov. If you've always wanted to discover him, it's not just one play, but 3 in total over the coming months. So very grateful for that. Grateful for you all for tuning in to Adam Interview.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 on demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.